Hey, you guys, and welcome back to the Real Talk Girlies podcast. I'm your host, Disapproval Joe, and today I have met a fellow social worker at my new Starbucks location.
Aween. Hi,
Yes.
everyone.
So, Aween really stood out to me because she was telling me of how she was just completed her master's in social work, which I'm going to be completing in May of 2026, and she's getting ready for the test, and we're just today going to talk about some things that inspire us to choose the field of social work and what we have learned in the field, some pros and cons that we would like to maybe change in the future. And yeah. So, Ween, if you would like to just dive right in and tell people what led you to social work, that'd be awesome.
I would say what led me to social work is how I came up in life. You know, my family, we didn't have much, so just learning from my own struggle and then being aware that there's others out there that are struggling as well just has given me a drive to want to help more people, because the fact that I was able to get a master's degree based off where I came from, you know, just really showed that no matter where you are from, you still have the opportunity. You just have to have the passion for it and the drive.
Yeah, and I think that's a great message because I feel a lot of people will blame like their situation or their social status of like why they can't get from A to B. But like you said, having that drive and passion makes up the difference for wherever you come from. Yeah. But I think it's like you kind of said, it's like a mindset, like, you know, and by filling into those stereotypes and labels of status and where you come from takes away that drive, and it can like eat away at you from reaching those things. So when you mentioned like some struggles and stuff, what would you say were some big struggles that you found yourself in?
I would say there's a lot of financial issues, you know. My parents didn't really help me pay for college, and it wasn't cheap at all. So just trying to find ways to like navigate how I'm going to be able to make it to the next semester. You know, in undergrad, I was an RA for almost every year except for my freshman year because they don't let freshmen be RAs, and that really helped me a lot, be able to pay and be able to stay on campus and do my work in person. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so just I would say the financial was a major issue, and also just having support because my parents, you know, my dad, I don't really talk to him, but my mom, she's kind of supportive, but like in a weird way because she didn't even know what my major was, you know. So it was just like she knew I was going to school, but she didn't really know what I had to deal with and like all the late nights, and I worked like 3 jobs, and she didn't really understand like how tough it was. So just like having that lack of like, you know, just support.
Yeah. And financial situations, I know, especially nowadays, like there's so much of that regarding like with inflation and so many things going up. And once again, when we see those dollar signs with college and even going on to a master's, it takes away that drive because we feel it's not possible. And parents and such, like, you know, even just having like, you know, a 2-person income, people are barely making it like that. So let alone having to then potentially help someone through college, it's a lot. So it's not like something that's like expected. However, like you said, you don't talk to your father as much, but like your mom didn't even know your major. So it's kind of like them saying that they're supporting, but then there's no actions to kind of show it. It's just like they're saying, oh yeah, whatever she does, like, you know, she knows that I love her and this and that. And it's like, sure, that's great, but you don't express it, or you don't know me. And then, as you mentioned, working 3 jobs, it seems like there was like a lack of empathy. It seems like she wasn't in your shoes to understand like, wow, my daughter's really busting her ass doing all this just to do what she wants. And I think, like, you know, just like those words of encouragement and like small gestures of just like, you know, like, hey, I know you've been working hard, why don't you maybe like spend the night and make like a dinner or something, just like small gestures like to show like they care or something, I think is something that helps that drive as well. And it seems like you were very isolated when you were doing this journey, and I just want to say that despite you not having the support that was ideal, I think it's just amazing how you yourself were enough to keep that drive and motivation going for yourself because you knew of that long-term goal of getting that degree.
And not even only for myself, for my siblings too. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one in my whole family to ever go to get my master's degree and my bachelor's degree. So just being that person that they can look up to and, feel like that they can do it as well, it just means a lot to me. Because I realized coming back home from college, my siblings look up to me a lot. But before I even went off to college, I didn't really think that. Now I can really see it. And, like, I stepped into the role of being the leader of the household. And, I just try to, like, motivate my younger siblings because I really want to see them be successful in their lives, given, like, how tough it is to survive in this world. Like, I feel like having an education is really important, and to be able to get the job that you would want. Like, anyone can get a job that pays well, I feel, but you're just gonna be like another job. Like, you really won't enjoy it. Like, I'd rather them do something that they enjoy rather than working all these long hours and, sometimes barely making it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great word of advice. And I think when I was hearing you, I think of like the idea of like not settling for less, knowing your worth. And if you want to do something that may be out of reach and it may take more time and stuff, but it's your passion, then it's more important to do that rather than just settle for something that will pay the bills, but you're not happy or passionate about it. And I think that's a great way to look at it as well. And you mentioned kind of like being the leader to your siblings. When do you think you had that I made it moment for them when they saw you as that leader?
How I felt?
Or like when did you feel that they started seeing you as a leader?
I would say when I would come home for like a short period of time, for like a week or two for breaks, and like just seeing how they would react in their faces. Like, in my family, we never show like emotion, given like my background. Like, we come from an African like household. So just seeing my little brother like give me like a big hug when I walk in just really melted my heart, and like just seeing him sad when I left, And then they would always like text me if they need something done. That's, to me, that shows me like I'm taking on more responsibility. Like, my brother needed to learn how to drive. He asked me. My younger brother, he would like need help with his homework, and he would always come to me first. So it shows that like I'm kind of like a leader, and that they kind of look up to me. So, and it felt like, in a way, I feel like, useful, and like that kind of like I made it. But I would also say at my graduation, graduating from undergrad, just seeing the look of my younger siblings just really melted my heart.
Yeah, and it sounds like how you mentioned this, your family doesn't really show a lot of like hugs, kisses, and affection like that. So when they had those moments with you, like when you came home or during your graduation, it was very special and rare. And I think those movements were so big for them that it kind of forced out like that type of affection just to come out so naturally.
Yeah, I feel like even without me like graduating, I feel like my younger siblings, they need that affection and they want to show it, but it's hard for them to because they've never been introduced to it.
Yeah.
And I can see it in my younger brother's eyes, the youngest. Like, he's such a sweetheart, but it's hard for him to like, just show affection because he wasn't given it.
Yeah, 100%. I see that a lot with kids. I know like some parents that love their kids, but they do through like acts of service, like, maybe buying their favorite toys, building them something they love, like, which is great, but they'll never initiate like the hugs or kisses. But the children, like, with the media and like being at school, like, they're encouraged those behaviors. So when they're not getting that at home, it slowly drifts away. And it becomes their new norm of how, like, no, we don't do that in this house. And not that there's like a wrong or right way about it, but it's just very interesting, like how families will kind of like label their love and affection. And on super rare occasions, like you mentioned, when you have like those aha moments, I think that's when those moments just come out so naturally and they're as special as you mentioned. So with your siblings, like, now everyone's kind of doing their own thing. What do you think is helping them stay motivated for their journey?
I would say just having each other, like us, so just all having each other, because we all kind of like, so growing up together, like we all kind of have like this bond that my parents really aren't a part of. So just knowing, so I would say like my youngest brother, just seeing all of us like doing well would motivate him to want to do well. Like I have two younger brothers, so I would say both of them. And I feel like just always like just lead, it's like lead by example, and it's just like goes down the line from all my siblings.
Yeah. It seems like you guys have like a lot of like peer support. And even though if you guys are all doing your own thing, you guys still know you guys are there for each other.
It could be a little difficult though with the age gap. My youngest brother, we're 12 years apart, and like
wow.
just trying to understand him sometimes, and like the new lingo, it's really hard. Sometimes I feel like he's shy and like he's afraid to talk to me because going away from college for all these years, you know, I really missed a big part of like a big chunk of his life. So it's like trying to like show him like it's okay to like be yourself around me is really difficult.
Yeah, especially like having that distance and then trying to like kind of meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
When you guys have been doing your own things, because you know that's how life is. People have to do their own thing, especially with an age gap like that. Now, into the field of social work, coming from a family that was not very emotionally effective, what were some like very shocking things that you learned in the field of social work when achieving your master's and bachelor's?
That a lot of things could be very traumatic for younger kids, and they could develop and linger on until when they get older. So
yeah,
just really like paying attention to the small stuff that really makes a person who they are based on the experiences that they've had.
100%. And it's so ironic that you say that. I'm actually doing my trauma class right now, and I remember we had to do a post of traumatic events, like it stated what the traumatic event was, but then it said like what's going to be the later trauma and if there is going to be any. And I was like, you know, thinking to myself, like, you know, like the current trauma is there, but it's like it can then progress into other comorbid things. And I think that was very important, like you said, noticing those small tells and us picking up on those in advance can then help prevent any comorbid trauma effects to happen. So I think that was something that was very important as well.
Yeah.
And what was something that you learned in the field that maybe you feel maybe disagreed with or isn't touched on enough in the field?
I would say like the stigma against mental health in some communities. I feel like there should be more work done to try to like eliminate that stigma and work with the specific communities that really need the help, and to try to like make everyone feel like it's okay to get the help that you need, and like there are people here that can help you. You don't have to do this alone.
Yeah, 100%. I think we see a lot of labeling theory. We see a lot of stereotypes, and we see a lot of judgmental behavior with verbal cues, nonverbal cues, and it's very upsetting to know that, you know, I feel like as much as our world has evolved, I do see us taking a lot of steps backwards.
Yeah.
Whether it be in the political aspect or just like with social hierarchy. And it's very upsetting that, you know, you would think that some of these things like, well, we took care of this years ago. Why are we still having people that are racist or homophobic? And it's just like, once again, I think to myself, it comes from those parents or grandparents or environments that are still stuck in that mindset and encouraging that for other generations to come.
Yeah, people don't realize that most of the things that you learn are from the older adults that you live with and who you kind of like watch over, and they teach you these things. You don't really know that it's in you until you get older, and then you see it in yourself. And I also feel like the political stuff has to do a lot with the stigma against mental health, because a lot of people don't have time to focus on their mental health because they're trying to survive in this world and provide for their kids. And there's really no time for them to sit and think like it's okay to take a break, because they can't take a break, because if they take a break, then, you know, it's going to be hard to come back to where they are.
100%. And I remember one time I did a podcast episode, and my friend mentioned of how we love to label things and just leave them like that because it's simple. So kind of like you mentioned, like people like, you know, in a way just like moving forward past the stigma, not really approaching it or questioning it, it makes it become like a reflex, if you will. For example, like I've met so many people in my field when I was doing my internships, and their reports would say depression, anxiety, and it's so vague, but that's what they know. And they'll be like, when you ask them, like, depressed, they'll be like, oh, I'm just sad. It's like, okay, but like there's more to it, but
So
they're
you
not
ask
educated.
them, what is sad to you?
Right, exactly. They don't know because they were diagnosed by someone who, just gave them a label to, keep them at ease, but people are still unsure as to why they're sad or why they feel these things. And then that stigma then stays. It's like, depressed people are just sad, or like, anxiety people just get like worried easily. Like, there's no elaboration because of that stigma, because of that quick label to simplify things.
And also because of the shortage of providers, like there's been such a huge shortage of psychologists out here, especially children's psychiatrists. I'm sorry, psychiatrists. So it's like they're getting this huge caseload, so it's hard for them to really take the time to really understand their client and all the things that they're going through, and that could probably, lead to something that could be labeled. But I feel like all the labels, I don't know, I feel like I'm iffy with labels because some people want to get treatment just to have that label, and then they cling on to the label instead of getting the actual help they need. Yeah.
They use it as something to define them, and it's like there's no way of escaping it, but it's like you're more than that depression or anxiety.
You can overcome it.
Kind of like back to like what we said about like having that drive when you come from maybe like a poor family or from people that are supposedly not supposed to achieve things because of that label. It takes away that same thing. Like, if you're labeled with depression or anxiety, oh, I can't ever be happy, I can't ever do something to make me feel because I'm with this curse. It's
because
like
I have this, but it's not because the label. It's you have to have the motivation and the drive to want to help fix what's going on, like not that there's something wrong with the person, but just trying to make things better in a way. That's why with therapy it's really difficult if the client doesn't want to do the therapy, because it's like you want it more than them and you can't want it more than your client.
Yes, and I've seen that so much. I remember when I was younger, I had this one friend, and they had so much potential, and like they literally wouldn't even like apply themselves, but they were so smart, they were such a great people person, but they never showed that side because they viewed it as a weakness. And they also got that from their friends, because they influenced him to think that. So with that peer pressure and that label being like like the nerdy guy or whatever, he downgraded himself. And I've heard from other people that he's doing a profession that is not to his full potential. And it's just like I feel that happens with so many people. We lose so many great minds and assets because of these influences from other people, or believing that they can't because of what they're labeled or where they come from. And people just settle for what they can, especially now. People are just like looking to get roommates real quick, or just like get a 2-bedroom apartment or anything, just like to settle, and then just keep like a maintain comfort zone. And then there's no development because that drive is now gone. And I think that is just very sad. So what would you say to people that are in that flunk of like trying to maintain that drive or motivation? What would be some words of encouragement you think that you would want to say to someone?
I would say, I'll meet you where you're at. I feel like meeting people where they're at really does a lot, and shows them that you are able to understand what they're going through, and you're also here to help them as well. So being able to understand what someone else is going through could really help them open up and like want to keep that drive and want to do better for themselves.
Yeah, I think also like how like you said, meeting them where they're at, that makes me think of like not setting like expectations for them, because I feel like that adds pressure to them. It's like, like, well, you should be here. Well, it's like, well, I'm not there.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And I think reminding people that flaws and uncertainty about things is all about life. You don't need to have an answer for everything. And I think that's a great way to put it. It's just meeting them where they're at, so that way you can empathize with what they're sharing with you at that given moment, and then award when they reach those goals that they set for themselves. It can be short term, long term, whatever the case may be. But I think also, in addition to meeting them where they're at and having them notice those goals when they're met and stuff like that, and the validation is a huge thing, whether it come from like family or from a relative or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case is. Like, we as human beings, even if, like we said, some human beings like don't show affection, but we all crave a connection. We're social beings.
It's funny you say that, because I was one of them that did not show affection whatsoever until I decided to switch my major into social work.
Yeah. And I think that's ironic because, you know, a lot of people I feel choose this field because they have so many, like an overwhelming amount of emotions, and they want to just like get them all out. But with you, it was a different approach. So I think that's interesting. So once you complete your test and stuff, what kind of department would you like to focus in the field of social work?
Right now, I'd say I don't have a specific department I would want to work in. I know I want to do therapy specifically, but I don't have a specific population yet. I feel like I haven't had the opportunity to, you know, work with different populations. You know, I've worked with older adults. I work with college students. Soon I'll be working with children. So I would rather, you know, dip my feet in different populations before choosing what specific one I would want to stick with.
Yeah, definitely, like, you know, playing all the areas that you're able to get your toe in, like you said, and explore and apply different skills to different clienteles. I think that's great.
Yeah, a part of me wanted to also do hospital social work. I don't really know much about that right now, so I'd rather, like, you know, do my research, you know, see what my expectations would be and, like, what I would need to know prior before applying to those jobs. So I think for now, I'll just stick with, like, what I've been doing and expand as I, you know, have my whole life ahead of me.
Yeah, for sure. And what would you say was, like, maybe like a professor or a classmate or just a class in general that really stood out to you in the field?
I had this one professor over at SU. Her name is Stephanie Pilkey. She's so amazing. She's so intelligent. She told us about her background, and you would she's even shocked that she got to the position where she is now. Like, there's words can't even express, like, how smart she is. And she does the work. Like, she does research, and she's a therapist as well. So, you know, just listening to her and all her stories and hearing her educate us, you know, just really connected me with her in a way that I've never connected with any professor ever in school. It seemed like she really has a passion for it. She really wanted to see us succeed.
Yeah. So not only did she encourage that drive, but she was also vulnerable and honest with her background to remind you that, like, you know, everyone has a story. Everyone comes from something. And I think sharing those experiences can help you empathize with that community that you're now a part of.
She even did extra work on standardized measures, and she showed us how to test them to see if they fit for certain communities, because not all standardized measures could work for specific communities because they may not be going through the same thing that this person is going through. And she taught us that it's okay to challenge them, and whatever organization you work for, always question the measure.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that photo that I showed you of the people, like, when they're being blocked, like, you know, it was a photo of basically people, like, standing, and there's, like, this wall, and some can see over and some can't, because, like you said, everyone has different needs. And when we try to force the same need on every client, it's not going to help everyone in the same way, or maybe not even help them at all, because everyone goes off of a different need. Now, with this professor, were you able to, like, get their contact information to, like, to keep them in that support? That's great.
From the first day, she gave us her phone number.
Good.
She's more of a texter than an emailer, so
okay.
That really helped. It could be midnight, and she'll answer a text immediately if you have a question about something that's due.
That's awesome. I think, like, with some professors, like, as we know, it's hit or miss, and I think when you see in a professor that's engaged as much as you are, it just makes it so much more fun. You know, because if you have a professor that shows no interest, then it takes away my interest.
Yep.
And as we know with colleges, we always have hit or misses with that.
Especially with the long class times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those could be brutal, but having an engaged professor, like you said, could really make it less,
And
difficult.
you mentioned a professor. Did you make any good like peers within social work as well?
A lot, actually. Everyone's really kind. Everyone's willing to help one another. Even after graduation, a lot of us were really confused on how to go about getting our license and like our permits, because a lot of us had jobs lined up, but we can't start until we get our permits. But
Yeah.
one thing the professors lacked to do was to show us and like guide us on like the next steps. So, I have a peer, her name is Lavette. She is really kind, and she's an older woman. She went back to school to change her career path. So, texting her, and she showed me, what to do, and, she even said, like, because our professors told us, you should wait a little bit before you apply because you need for your degree or whatever. But she told us, you shouldn't wait. Like, no one's going to come and save you. No one's going to give you the plate and, like,
Yeah.
you have to go out and you have to do it yourself. So just following her steps, she sent me every single step on what to do. And now I have my license. Not my license, my permit, I'm sorry.
That's amazing. And see, I didn't even know you needed a permit first. I thought you could just take the test as soon as you're done and that's it.
You can take the test, but it may not be sooner than you would think, You would have to wait a little bit. One of my friends registered for an exam, and it's not until October, so you'll be waiting until October. But if you want to work while you wait, you can get a limited permit.
Yes, I did hear that some places may hire you if you have your master's, but you are qualified to then pass that test. And if you didn't like pass it, then you would lose that job. So
it's like contingent, like you need the permit
right.
for if you want to do like mental health, care stuff. Like if you want to do like therapy or counseling, you need your permit. But other settings, like integrated settings, I don't think you need them for all. Because there was a select few in my cohort that already was in the field. They just wanted to move a step up.
Yeah.
What they were doing.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. I also have someone that's older than me who's a woman that she knows like all the information in the field, and she applies so many great resources. And I've met a great community as well in social work. And I think like coming from cliquey like high school environments and stuff like that, it's very hard to kind of trust people, because as we know, we're very close to our field. So I think being able to have a new like group of friends or peers that we can be vulnerable and ask questions with, or do assignments with, whatever, it was definitely scary for me at first. I don't know if you felt that way as well.
Definitely did.
But how do you think you were able to trust the professor you mentioned and the classmate you mentioned? Like, how do you feel you were able to form this group of peers that you met?
I can also contest to being, very shy, very nervous when I first entered grad school. But, just the class time really helped a lot, get to know people. Given we barely talked about, like, our personal lives. Our personal lives did come out when, like, if someone wanted to relate their situation to, like, a client's that were, like, a, fake client that we're talking about. But just the class time really helped get to see people's personalities. And we had to do group work as well, so getting to know people through group work and just getting outside your comfort zone. Like, I've made 2 very close friends. Their names are Katie and Grace. And I really appreciate them because we really helped each other, finish off the school year. It was really difficult for all of us, We all felt like the curriculum really wasn't what we thought it was supposed to be. So just having each other to keep us driven to like finish, because it could be really hard to go straight into grad school after undergrad. So like, grad school is difficult. It doesn't matter what major you choose. You just gotta know you made it this far. So
yeah, it's definitely hard to do it all in one take, like you said, because that's what I'm doing right now, because it's been 7 years for me. I've been doing it all the way through. And something that you mentioned, and I do also want to say that, like, I'm so happy that you found that support and those peers. And I know in the field of social work, like those are friends that I've heard from other people in the field of social work, though those are friends for life. And it may sound cheesy, but like, I don't know, I guess I'm a firm believer of that. But something that I wonder though in the field of social work is like the stuff that they give us. I feel like a lot of it is kind of like they kind of avoid like bigger topics. I feel like, and there was a lot of like kind of like busy work. I don't know if you saw that as well. And the biggest like thing that's very frustrating is like when places won't hire you or give you a chance because you don't have enough experience.
Oh my gosh, that was something a lot of us ran into when we were applying for jobs during winter break. A lot of these jobs in the description would say like 5+ years experience in this specific, with this specific population, and we're all trying to figure out like, can we apply or like can we not? Because it was confusing because a lot of these organizations really needed help, but we were going to be fresh from grad school. We don't have this experience, and how are we supposed to get the experience if we're not given the opportunity, which can be difficult, and it could be very what's the word I'm thinking of? It could make people really hesitant to want to even like do the job that they actually want to do, because I know my friend, she really wants to work with children, but it could be hard to get a job working with children because people want you to have prior years experience, but which is really sad because it's not just within our field, it's with like every other field. Like a lot of people are spending thousands of dollars to get this education that they won't even be able to use their degree because no one's giving them the opportunity.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because we see such a lack in our field specifically, and I feel a lot of it comes, like you said, people sometimes get a little nervous because there is that lack of like chances to be placed in the field, and when we do, it's kind of like a little stressful because it's like the chances are so rare. So if like if you make a misconception or a mix-up, it's like that may be like your only chance and you messed it up.
That's how it feels when you're interning too. Like you're so hesitant to like want to like do more because you're afraid. What if you mess up? And then you throw away all these years of school you did. It's even when you get your license, it's so quick to lose your license.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know the steps of getting your license back, but it must be difficult.
Yeah. And I think like there's so many boundaries and triggers, like we mentioned with trauma and stuff, that clients may have but we may not know at that time. And one of those invasions that we do by mistake could cost us something.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because our professors made it a thing to have us like do our like biasy tests or whatever, because everyone has
we did those too. Yes.
So it's like just acknowledging them and seeing what you can do to work on them instead of like just labeling everyone has biases and not working on them. So that really helped a lot because some people didn't grow up in communities where it was diverse, so it could be really difficult for them to adjust.
Yeah.
So just calling out your biases, seeing on what you can do to work on them, and not letting them interfere with the work you do, because that can really damage a client and do so much.
Yeah, and I think the term for that is there's countertransference and then transference. Yeah. And I remember that happened with me once. I believe the correct term is countertransference. So I was sitting in one of my internships, and it was with a young boy, his mom, and then the person that was working with them, who was like my field supervisor. And I grew up like where I didn't have a lot of say in my environment. Like my choices were made for me. So I saw this mother speaking for the child. He's 18 and he's getting ready to do stuff for school and stuff. And she was like, nope, he's going to be doing this. Nope, this is the class he wants. She's like, I know what my boy wants. Like, and the boy didn't have one say. So in supervision, my field instructor was like, how do you think that went? I said, I felt that was terrible. And she was like, why? I'm like, well, because this mother did all the talking for her son, and the son didn't get to advocate anything he wanted. And in supervision, as we say, when you get to know people, you empathize when you tell them a little bit about your life. And she's like, because I told her that was part of my life. And she was like, Joe, it sounds like you're projecting your own issue from this client. I was like, oh my God, am I? You know, and I think that's something that happens a lot. A lot of the times we do that, but we don't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say there would be any times that you found yourself doing that in your internships or anything?
Um, I would say definitely, yeah. With working with older adults, you know, you have to. I worked in like a nursing home setting. You know, it was a nursing home, assisted living, and it was also like apartment style in the
Yeah.
building. So just seeing, so you have to work alongside CNAs, you know, LPNs. So just seeing how they would treat the client, and not even just that, but like how family members would come in and how they would treat their mother per se, or like their grandmother, and not, you know, and feeling as wanting to step in and, you know, defending my client, but at the same time, you know, I don't know their relationship. You know, I can't really step in and do that because, you know, growing up, I really didn't. I've never met any of my grandparents, so it really saddens me to see that people, you know, really abuse older adults, and not being able to say something about it really like is really hard to like hold back. But at least, but I also think about the fact that at least I'm there for my client to let them, you know, express those feelings and like how they feel when people treat them this way, because a lot of people in nursing home settings, they feel like they have no rights, like, but they do have rights. So it's hard to be there for them as well, and just not be able to defend them in the way that you want to defend them.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to that point of like when we know our client could do better for themselves, but they don't apply themselves. And it's at the same time where it's like I think people forget rights they have with certain things, and they don't apply them because maybe they feel they deserve the situation they're in, or they feel that they don't want to bother someone or something. There's always like a wall, and it takes away, I think, that them seeing that they do have a chance to advocate for something for themselves. And I think that comes from like a lot of childhood trauma as well. Maybe like people are told that they can't advocate for themselves, like you get what you get, don't throw a fit type of thing. And it's like there's no room for growth to be like, well, I feel I deserve more, well, I feel I could do something better for myself. And I feel like that is blocked because of, like, once again, people striping away that drive or motivation from you because they make you feel as if you can't get anything better than what you're already in. And that's very disheartening. So if you were to have a client, you know, that was going through a lot of hardships, like, you know, maybe they felt they couldn't be emotionally intelligent with their family, or they felt they didn't have a lot of support, or kind of just like lost, what would you say to someone regarding that?
I would ask them. So is the point of them coming to therapy would because they don't have any support?
Yeah, like no support, just kind of like lost. Maybe like they just finished like high school, they don't know what to do with themselves.
Okay. No, I feel like it's always good to work on goals and seeing where they want to be and what they want to create of like their life. And, you know, like there's so many barriers that come with trying to meet goals. So also writing down those barriers and figuring out ways to, you know, fix some of those small barriers to help them lead to the bigger goals. You know, support system is really helpful, definitely, and that could be a barrier as well, and trying to figure out ways to create their own support system.
Yeah. And I think like how you mentioned their goals, I think that's very important too, because at the end of the day, you have yourself, you know. So living up for the expectation that you want for yourself and not for others is another thing that needs to be reminded to the client as well. Like, you know, a lot of times like, well, my mom or dad really want me to do this, or they want me in the family business. Like, you know, it's like always goes back to someone else, of a higher power, or someone they want validation from.
Yep.
But it's important to remind them, it's like, but what do you want?
And a lot of people may not even know what they want because of those things.
Right.
And that's where it's okay as a therapist, you know, to help your client create goals, but not create it for them, so that they can stick with it. Because if you create goals for your clients, it's going to be 10 times harder for them to even achieve those goals because those weren't the ones that they created.
Right. You know, it's like I may think I know what's best for you, but I'm doing all the work for you, because that's not going to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing too that happens a lot is like, you know, because as social beings, once again, believe it or not, we love to talk about ourselves. I learned about that in one of my classes, and I didn't think about it at the time. I was like, oh my god, wait, I see it happen all the time. And I feel like, you know, like how sometimes, like, you know, people will bond with their clients, as you mentioned, by telling their stories, which I think is great. But at the same time, it's like we have to remember that this is the moment for our client to say what they feel they need for their goals or what their story is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like we can go on about ourselves all the time and the client just be like, oh, same, you know, but that's not gaining anything for the client.
I know in certain situations, like, it's okay to, like, you know, relate some of your things with your client, but only if it benefits them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your responsibility as a therapist to understand when it's too much and when it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because being able to relate with the client on some things is really beneficial. So just also, it all goes back to, like, meeting them where they're at and being able to understand what that they're going through and trying to get them to where they want to be.
Yeah, 100%. So for someone that may not be familiar with, like, you know, the term mental health and stuff like that, how would you like describe the field of social work and awareness of mental health to people nowadays in the year 2025?
I would say social work is like a broader term of describing mental health. I would say getting treatment to help you deal with the situations that you're going through right now and help. But treatment could also be a bad word to say because some people could really get, you know, hesitant with that word. So how would you describe it?
I would feel like mental health, I think I view as like self-care.
A lot of people don't like that word self-care, though.
You think?
Yeah,
really?
Definitely. Even in our class, a lot of people do
Interesting.
not like the word self-care because it could be hard. Like, I don't know. A lot of people did not like that word.
What about, like, maybe, like, taking action of your own life?
I like that.
You know, because holding yourself accountable for your mental health, it's like, you know, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, 8 hours of sleep, healthy diet. I think those are all things that are matching with mental health, but they're viewed as, like, you know, the basics. But a lot of times we don't even do that. And then social worker, and the field of social work, I would view social work as kind of like supporting people who have the answers, but they're like lost, kind of like treasure. Like, you know, it's like when I feel like when we have clients come in, they have this treasure chest that's buried, and we're there to help guide them to unbury it, to know what they wanted all along. And I feel like as social workers, we're working with the clients to help them find that treasure, find that purpose, that motivation, drive, future, connection. I think that's how I would interpret that
definition.
But there's something that you said, and I remembered it because it was playing back in my head. You said something to me a couple of days ago of how, like, you were done with, like, you know, your master's, which is, by the way, amazing. But you said, like, you know, you don't have any hobbies or anything because your whole life was consumed by social work. And that really hit with me because I know what helped me keep pursuing my field was recording and writing music, as my audience knows. But with you, it was the nonstop, you know, school, and, you know, working 3 jobs. So, like, I'm just curious how you can have a drive when you don't have those outlooks. And then, you know, and in addition to, like, what do you feel that you need a hobby now or interest for yourself to keep a drive?
I definitely say I should get a hobby or two, you know, just to have that work and, you know, that work-life balance. But what kept my drive was just seeing where I want to be at, you know, in the future, because not a lot of people get this opportunity. So my drive comes from pushing as far as I can go ahead, because there's some people that think that they can never get here, but the fact that I did really means a lot to me. It makes me want to do as much as I can. Yeah, it was a difficult journey, but we made it.
And it seems like you're very grateful for it. And, like, you know, like you mentioned, like, not everyone can get to that point. Like you said, no matter what master's you do, it's hard. And you knowing that you had that chance to make it, you're not going to take it for granted, and you're just very grateful for it. And I think that's an awesome way to look at it.
And it doesn't really hit you that it's such a big accomplishment until like afterwards, where like when people ask you like, did you go to school, and you say like, yeah, I have my master's, like they're so proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh my god, I thought I was just going with the flow, but in reality, like it's a huge accomplishment.
I know when I tell people, like, when we're here at work, they'll be like, well, I hope you enjoy your day off. Like, they think I'm going to go home. Like, oh no, I got schoolwork. I'm in my master's. They'll be like, oh, whoa. I always find that interesting. But what would be a hobby that you have been thinking about of maybe investing in just for fun or something?
I've been wanting to pick up like crocheting or like just crocheting or just sewing in general, like just something to keep me busy. Like it's hard to even say because I really never like stepped outside my bubble. I've just been so consumed in school. So now having the time, it's like maybe I would probably explore like a bunch of things, like being more outdoorsy or even like being open to meeting new friends that can introduce me to some new hobbies.
Yeah.
And also I've been wanting to, do more like after work, because I've always been a person to like do my work, go home, do schoolwork, and then just go to sleep and repeat that cycle.
Right.
So it's like now that I'm only having to juggle a job. Well, I still work 2 jobs right now, but just having to like go to work, like I still have time after work. So doing something in between that time instead of just going back to sleep as in my usual rotation, it's like getting out of that cycle, because there's so much of life that I haven't been able to like really experience yet. So just enjoying life while I can, instead of like being overwhelmed and stressed about the work that I do, because being in this field, you take a lot of that baggage home with you. And it's like, I don't have a therapist personally. All of my friends that are within the field, they have therapists, but I've been thinking about getting one, but it's hard for me to like step into that. But it's hard to even hear myself say, because I'm working trying to be a therapist.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't even like right now. It's like, to me it seems like I don't have the time to have a therapist, but I think it's really like the fear of getting a therapist and like just like expressing all the baggage that like hold inside of me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's ironic because I feel like us social workers and therapists, we always, encourage people to seek therapy. But when it comes to ourselves, we're like, nah. I don't know why, but that always happens. But I do agree that I do think it is important for like when we are fully in the field to have it, because we're going to hear so much. And not only do we need to disclose our personal information, but some clients are going to say some things that could trigger that countertransference or something. Yes. And we could be like, well, damn, like that really hit.
How would you react in a situation like that?
Oh, man. I think like with my environments, I've had a lot of people project their anger onto me, and I've been very programmed to react. I think the way that happens to me is that I just go numb. I think I kind of just like let them use me as their punching bag. So like I won't really show the affection, but like I'll take it with me. I think that's been kind of like a defense mechanism for me throughout my life. And I feel like that'd be something that would need to be disclosed in my personal therapy. So that way, not that being numb is okay, but I don't want like all the anger to build up in front of that client and then like unleash the beast or something on them.
Having your own therapy is really important, but another thing that's extremely important is utilizing like your supervisor and supervision. Like,
yes.
Having an amazing supervisor can really do a lot, unraveling all the stuff that that you let build up when you talking to clients, and hearing them say things that you can relate to, talking through it with your supervisor and hearing the tips that they give you can really help when you're in a session one-on-one with the client.
Yeah, 100%. I know with my internship, I had a great field supervisor, and we had once a week 1 hour supervision, and it helped so much, not even just like in the field, but with also my personal life. And I know maybe mixing work and personal life is not the best, but it really did help a lot of personal things. Did you also have those experiences in your internships where it helped a lot with not only your craft in the field, but like also with like your personal life?
Yeah, especially in undergrad, my supervisors really understood my background and where I came from, and they were really accommodating with, trying to meet my needs as well as trying to give me the experience that they're there to give me.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to say, Aween, that I'm so proud of everything that you've done, and I think that you've been doing so much for you and you've been focusing on you, and I think that's great. And I think that coming from an environment that may not have been lovey-dovey and stuff, I think that you have shown in this field that you don't have to be loves kisses and all these types of things. I think just like listening and meeting people where they're at, I think is such a great skill that you bring to this field. And I think people are going to feel your connection is not forced and it's just real honesty, and I think they're going to cling to that. And I hope that you find what you want in this field. I can't wait for you to get this test done because, girl, the money you investing in it is...
Oh, my goodness.
Girl, I'll never understand why they would make us pay for this test, but that's a different story
Exactly.
time. But I'm just really proud of you, and I am
So
very
much.
happy that I got to meet you. And I'm
Same here. I'm so proud of you as well. You're going to do great things. I cannot wait till you graduate.
Yes.
I will be in the stands cheering
Yes.
on. You're going to be great.
I
You are
appreciate
great.
it. Well, you guys, this has been the Real Talk Girlies podcast. I'm back. The album is out now on all streaming services. And shout out again to Aween, our future next social worker therapist. Once that test is done, if you need a booking or session with her, highly recommend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.